92% of households that start the year with Peloton are still active a year later.
92% because of a bike?
Not just bikes. We also make treadmills and rowers.
Oh, let me guess, for elite athletes only, right?
Nope. It doesn't matter if you're an avid exerciser or new to working out. Peloton can help you achieve your fitness goals. 92% stick with it. So can you. Try Peloton bikes, tread, or row risk-free with a 30-day home trial. New members only. Not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial.
Did you know there is only one NASDAQ-listed company focused on the booming lab-grown diamond market? That's right. A recent IPO, Adamas One, trading under ticket JEWL. The demand for lab-grown diamonds is exploding. Don't miss the opportunity to get in early before the big Wall Street investors find this diamond in the rough.
Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app. We're now on Red Circle, as well as Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. You can also find a lot of our work on 5reasonsports.com. Make sure you spell that out. We have lots of great sponsors. Going to tell you about 2 of them real quick before we start. Our fantasy sponsor, of course, is Prize Picks. Use that code 5, F-I-V-E. Get your initial deposit matched up to $100. Lots of people are putting down deposits lately in front of the NFL's wild card weekends. Maybe the only reason to watch the Dolphin game coming up on Sunday with no Tua. So go to Prize Picks, use the code 5, F-I-V-E, get that initial deposit matched up to $100. Also, we mentioned our friend Nelson over at Mobile CRM and Staffing Services. You can go to his website to fill it out, c-armandstaffing.com. That's c-armandstaffing.com. What do? They rent C-arm equipment on a short and long-term basis to hospitals, surgery centers, chiropractic offices, and pain management offices. Nelson's a huge Heat fan, so you can talk to him about that as well. 561-891-9620. That's 561-891-9620. Go to www.c-armandstaffing.com. And now, today's episode with special guest, Norris Cole.
Down the bitch gang. Yeah. 5 on the floor. Ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing. You can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Just like Buck said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing. Got it all banned. Y'all seen the block. Stop with one hand. And Pat we trust. It's power have the guts. We're here to bring the heat. Y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor. Welcome back an old friend here. He's been on here. He's going to be on a little bit more consistently with us going forward. Where in the world is Norris Cole? That's the game we play here. We've also got Alex Toledo. I know where he's at. I can see the shrubbery in the backyard in Hialeah. Norris, you are not in Hialeah. Where are you?
No, I am not. I am in Grand Rapids, Michigan right now.
What is the single best thing to do in Grand Rapids, Michigan?
Take naps.
You know what that reminds me of? I remember, and you probably remember, the finals in OKC. And I remember Dewayne getting asked at a press conference, like what he does in Oklahoma City. And he said, I watch movies. That's what he said he did. I got in trouble in OKC because I tweeted that if they won the championship against you guys that year, they would have a parade down one street. Basically,
that's not right. That's not right.
Everywhere
is not Miami. Everywhere is not Miami.
I understand, but I mean, Bricktown only goes so far, man. Like it's that you go and then you hit Mantles, you turn around, you go the other. I used to see Bosch and everybody else at Mantles all the time. There's only like 4 places to go, so they didn't like that very much.
Yeah, it's not. It's actually pretty cool up here. It's nice Midwestern city, but you know me, I'm low maintenance. I don't do much anyway.
Yeah, I know.
My favorite hobby.
I know, Cleveland State. All right, so let's get to it. Norris is going to be with us here a little bit going forward. We'll also mention Energy Cubes as we go forward too. He'll tell you a little bit about that and what he's doing. I want to get straight to the Miami Heat right now. And here's what I want to touch on because this is hot with everybody. And you just actually saw it for the first time. But this has been a difficult season for the Heat. I mean, 22-20 is not acceptable. Not after you know the nature of where they've been. And what is expected with the organization. Right. And so 22-20 after winning the East last year. Last year they were 26-15 at the halfway point. This year they were basically 5 games behind that. And then we see some frustration boil over yesterday in a win against OKC, but Dewayne Dedmon gets at it with Erik Spoelstra. It's pretty clear. It's the two of them going at it. Ultimately, Dedmon throws, as he's leaving the court after an ejection, he throws a massage gun. And Erik characterized it as a normal Tuesday night with the Miami Heat. I know some stuff. There was there were some battles there. A lot of them didn't happen in front of us, though, during the Big Three era. Like, how common is that? Where is the point where it goes from being healthy to being unhealthy? I guess that would be the question.
I mean, every team is different. I would say whenever it becomes more about the individual instead of solving the problem and about the team, that's when it becomes unhealthy. And so that could mean two separate extremes, you know. But as long as it's about the team, as long as it's about winning, then I think it's healthy, even though it may look, you know, extreme to the outside world, you know, inside the locker room. As long as it's about the team, as long as it's about solving the actual issue, then it's okay. You know, the moment it becomes personal, that's when it kind of becomes unacceptable.
I'm going to let Alex jump in on this in a second, but on this specifically, so you say if it's about individual instead of a team, and again, we don't know exactly what the circumstances were, but it seemed to come after 3 blown coverages and 3 baskets that were led to. Typically, if it's over playing time, not team oriented, right? If it's over not taking responsibility for something, because I want to take you back to one, okay? Before Alex jumps in here. Indiana, game 4, 2012, second round. I was sitting caddy corner courtside in Indiana. Dewayne was struggling.
Right.
Spo got angry at him, I think, for not getting back on defense. It escalated a little bit on the sidelines. UD stepped in. There was a lot of talk about it. And then Dewayne and LeBron went nuclear the rest of that playoff series without Chris, and you guys ended up advancing. Was that situation, in your view, was that healthy? Because those two guys have known each other for so long, even at that point. You know, Erik had been coaching him for 4 or 5 seasons. Was that a healthy situation, do you think? Because you guys ended up winning a championship.
I think it was healthy because, I mean, during that time, obviously D-Wade wasn't playing the way he wanted to, and he knew that he wanted to help the team out. And so he had some physical ailments that he was battling too that people may not have known about. You know, so it was just frustration boiling over. And obviously Spo, he's a human. They're both human beings. They're both high emotional, you know, high testosterone, you know, so high competitive nature. So that was healthy. And as you can see, the results after that led to our team playing better, D-Wade playing better, you know, Spo, you know, coaching better. So that was healthy because you saw the results come from it. And, you know, D-Wade, he wants to play well for himself, but he also knows that playing well for himself is healthy for our team. You know, it's the big 3 for a reason. He's one of them. And so I believe that was healthy. And sometimes, you know, your family arguments happen in public in sports, you know, but we all know each other in that locker room. We all know each other as men. So to us, our respect level never changed, you know, even though we may have been argumentative, you know, in the public.
It didn't hurt that UD could step in too, right? Like,
well, I mean, yeah, I mean, that always helps. But I mean, they're both professionals. I don't think it would have got out of control anyway. I mean, it's not the first time a star player and a coach have yelled at each other and said things to each other in the history of the game. It won't be the last time, you know, but it is good to have other veteran teammates there that can, you know, kind of step in and, you know, move it along smoothly like UD does.
And I think the thing that people don't realize is that Erik can get like that, because I don't think people know that the public persona is a little bit different. He curses a little bit more behind the scenes than he does publicly.
Well, he does what he does. Every coach, every legendary coach that I know, they have a personality. Mm-hmm. They have an identity. Each one is different than the other. Some are loud, some are outspoken, some are like radical crazy. Others, you know, are more intense. You know, Spo's an intense guy. He's just, you know, he's just not a real loud guy. But you don't have to be loud to be intense. You don't have to be loud to be super competitive. And everyone knows Spo is as competitive as anybody in this world. He's super ultra competitive, and he's no pushover. And so even though, you know, the outside world may not really know him, that's purposely, you know. Only people that really need to know him is us, you know, the players who are in the locker room and those who go to battle with him. And those who go to battle with him knows that, you know, he always wants to win. And when he needs to, when he needs to say a few things, he's going to say it. He prefers to do it in private, but if he has to in public, he will.
All right, I'm going to let Alex pivot to the basketball here. You got something for Norris?
Yeah, well, I mean, other than the Dedmon stuff, it was just wild because it was on a night where they only had 9 players available, and one of them was also Haslam. Speaking of him, so just him doing that was wild. Part about it.
I mean Dennis Rodman never did nothing like that. UD never did nothing like that. That was wild. Do something on the court like that.
I think it was an accident. I think he smacked it and it ended up on the court. Is how I looked at it. I mean, I could be wrong, but anyways, just basketball stuff. What I wanted to ask you about, right, with the Heat is, there's a few things. The first thing is the past few seasons, they have been really good when it comes to three-point shooting. They were number 1 in three-point percentage last season. And it feels like almost every time we've had you on to talk about the Heat, a lot of times during the playoffs last year, the issue was their three-point shooting going away. And it's kind of extended through this season. They're 25th in the league in three-point percentage currently. And it's kind of been like that throughout the whole season. And, you figure, and I think this is just kind of the organizational thinking is shooting is shooting. It's the most variance when it comes to basketball. It could always, it's always up and down, right? But it's been the whole season at this point. Duncan Robinson is now out for a couple of months. He was being phased out of the rotation just in general. Max Strus is kind of the one taking the most threes outside of Tyler Hero. And just in general, it feels like their offense – it's not great when the threes are not falling. They've kind of adjusted a little bit this year. We've seen some more Bam, some more Tyler, and the growth that they've taken in the offense. They've, made it a little bit more so that they're eating, which is good. It's going to help them in the playoffs. But when their three-point shooting is not great, they're not a good enough offensive team. How do you feel about the way that their offense is built? And, do you just let it happen, or do you just have to? Is it something that's about roster construction?
I mean, well, you said it for a second there. Shooting is the most inconsistent part of basketball, and so sometimes you have to weather the storm. You have to look at the type of threes that they're getting. I feel like this year compared to last year they were getting a lot of kick out, wide open, spot up threes, break down the paint, kick out, swing. This year it seems a little bit more contested threes, which, contested threes are a lot tougher than, as we know, catch and shoot threes. And part of that's because, Duncan hasn't been in the lineup a lot. And some of that's because, they've had a lot of injuries. Guys have been in and out of the lineup, so it's hard to get a rhythm, when guys are in and out of the lineup. And I think as they get a more regular rotation and the same guys start to play every night, I believe that, it will go up. I think their percentage will go up. But right now they have to find different ways because this game is pretty simple. When you shoot it, when the ball go in, you look good. When you shoot it and it don't go in, you don't look good. And so they just have to continue, to put the work in and hopefully, they're healthy enough to where guys can get into rhythm.
All right, so let me follow on that with you real quick before Alex jumps back into the basketball, because I tweeted this out the other day. You're talking about, well, if the guys can play, they can get into a rhythm, right? But that seems to be the problem, is that not enough of them are playing from night to night. Like I asked Jimmy last night, and he's been one of the, the guys who's been out the most. But I said, have you ever been through a season like this? And he said, nope, in terms of not knowing what his crew is going to be that evening. And I went back and looked 10 years ago, when you guys won 66, had the 27-game winning streak, you had 7 guys led by you, because you played 80, play at least 70 games, and another guy played 69, which was Dewayne, and everybody complained about how little Dewayne played, and he played 69 games this season. I don't know if the Heat are going to have 2 guys play 69 games this season. Like there's only 3 that are on pace for 70. 2 of those are Lowry and Bam. Bam's going to miss time now, and Lowry's probably going to be managed as the season goes on. Why is this happening? Because it's not just the Heat. I mean, what has happened here that guys don't play?
Oh man, I don't know, man. That's a head scratcher to me as well. To me, the more you play, the more rhythm you have, the better you play. But it seems like there's a philosophy now going on, with load management and things like that. Not playing seems to be you get better by not playing, which to me I don't really understand that, but that's a trend that's going on right now in the league. I don't think the Heat go by that though. I just think they actually been injured. I don't think that their players are not playing because of load management. I think guys are actually nicked up, guys are hurt, and it's better for them to get healed at the right time rather than try to possibly play through an injury and it linger the whole season. You know what I mean? So I think the Heat is in a different circumstance than the rest of the league. I think the rest of the league sometimes, like I said, they do a lot of load managing and having guys not play instead of guys who are available to play, making them play every night. I believe that's better for the game. But that's just my opinion. But the Heat, they're not in that situation. I think guys are legitimately hurt. Guys are legitimately injured, and that's unfortunate. But the best part is they got that out the way early in the season, hopefully. And as we get, to the second half of the season, hopefully guys are healthier, and then they can get into a stride going into the playoffs.
Okay, so I feel like, speaking of that, right, this is not necessarily about that, but it's kind of connected because the question is about roster construction. So, like, he spent the offseason kind of tied up in the Kevin Durant stuff, the Donovan Mitchell stuff to a lesser extent. And then after that stuff didn't work out for them, they didn't have the draft capital, whatever the case was. Like, it ends up coming back and, everybody uses the phrase running it back, right? So they brought back Caleb, they brought back Dedmon, they brought back Oladipo, and they drafted Nikola Jovic, and that was their offseason. And a lot of fans are really upset with that, especially because, there's no natural, quote unquote, power forward on the team. You've had Caleb starting all year. And, to be fair, he's done a great job. He's done a great job in that role and kind of playing above his head as far as size, position. The Heat don't really care too much about position. It's more about what you can do and can't do. But it's also, he is their best point of attack defender in the starting lineup. So you might have Kyle defending the fours. And there's a lot going on with it, the team. It feels like everybody is trying to make up for the lack of size. They went from a pretty good rebounding team last year to a bottom 10 one so far this season. And they're pretty good in defensive rebounding. They're okay in defensive rebounding, and they're one of the worst offensive rebounding teams. It feels like Bam is always, trying to tip it out to everybody. And you would think that they would be a good transition team as a result, but they're not really that good in transition either. So it feels like we thought they were going to be better in that aspect. We thought they were going to be a better three-point shooting team, and that's why the offense hasn't really been there. It feels like when they're not getting those steals, and that's the thing, they're getting those steals a lot of times. That's kind of where they're making it up, is by forcing turnovers. That's where they're generating their offense. Is that sustainable? And I also wanted to ask, like, what they're doing with with Bam, with Tyler, where they're featuring them more and trying to get them, I think, more ready for the playoffs. Is that the way to go? Just, do you think that, how do you feel about the way that they're going about it right now?
Well, they finished first place last year, right? The best record in the East with the team that they had. So if they didn't get the specific free agents they wanted, it would make sense to bring the guys back. So I understand that logic.
That PJ walk too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they would have been able to pay what Philly was willing to pay without compromising, going over too much into the luxury tax.
Yep.
But so I understand them bringing back the same kind of roster if they couldn't land the big free agent splash that they wanted. Is this sustainable how they're playing? It's not sustainable to win a championship. It may be sustainable to get into the playoffs. Sure, I think they can get into the playoffs and compete. But as far as sustaining to win a championship, I don't believe that this style of play will be able to. And I think they know that. But once again, I do believe that once guys are healthier and playing more consistent, they won't have to, rely just on steals, to compete defensively. They'll be able to be a better rebounding team. They'll be able to defend the three ball better. They'll be able to, string stops so that they can play in transition, which will open up, threes, uncontested threes in transition. So right now they're just making do with what they have. You can only play with what you have. There's no savior that's going to come, so they have to play how they have to play until things get better, until guys are healthier.
I want to pivot to that after the break here, because I want to ask you about transactions and how they affect the team and how waiting for a transaction affects the team. Before we do, tell people about Energy Cubes.
Yeah, so Energy Cubes is the It's the best. It's the best, nutrient bars out there. I know we've heard of Gatorade bars, Nutrigrain bars, Nature Valley bars. Well, it's the best bar out there. It's non-GMO, soy-free, dairy-free, all natural product. You can look on e3energycubes.com. When you're working out, it's great for pre-workout, post-workout. If you're trying to, get fit, get in shape, it's a healthy snack. Lemon blueberry is my favorite. But yeah, it's the best. It's the best bar out there when you're talking about energy, fiber, nutrients for post or pre-workout.
So energycubes3.com, correct?
E3energycubes.com.
E3energycubes.com. All right, get that right. E3energycubes.com. I want to tell you about one more sponsor here as we go forward, and then a couple more questions here for Norris before we go. Water Cleanup of Florida. If you got a water leak, you can't find where it's coming from, you're dealing with water or mold damage in your home or business, call Michael, Robert, and the team over at Water Cleanup of Florida, 954-579-0356. That's 954-579-0356. 24 hours a day. Yeah, just wake Michael up. All right. He's been doing some work in Fort Myers, but he'll be back here on the East Coast, and his team can handle everything for you. He's based in Boca, but also handles Dade and Broward counties as well. WCUFL.com. That's WCUFL.com, and check out the 70+ 5-star reviews on Google.
On Deloitte's On Cloud podcast, my co-host Mike Cavus and I talk with innovation leaders to explore how they use cloud engineering for new possibilities for their organizations. Join myself, David Linthicum, by subscribing to On Cloud, wherever you get your podcasts.
We're talking about transactions and making do with what you have. So let me ask you this. When players on a team know that the organization does not want to pay the luxury tax, do they talk about that? Does that affect them? Does that make them think, okay, we're not really going for a championship? Because Big Three teams paid tax. Mickey paid tax during that time, but then he amnestied Mike Miller after the 12-13 season, in part to avoid tax. Do players, is that even a subject of conversation among players? We're all in, we're not all in, the organization's committed, it's not committed.
Individuals talk about it. As a whole team, no, we don't talk about it. At least I haven't heard it. But yeah, individuals, I've heard individual players, talking to maybe other individual players. Yeah, sure, they talk about it. Especially when you have players that are legendary players who are only in the game to win championships at this point. So yeah, I've heard the conversation. But there's a balance. Owners have a balance. They understand that in order to win, you got to go into the tax. But, once you see that that's not working, obviously the owners try to pull back and amnesty players sometime, or if they can find, a player that's not as expensive, of course they're going to try to make the proper business move. But every championship team over the last decade or so has all been in the tax. Golden State lives in the luxury tax.
They live deep in the luxry tax.
They were a record. They were a record high in the luxury tax. Obviously, we were in the luxury tax as well. And who else won the championship? Toronto might have been. I don't know if they were or not, but most teams are in the luxury tax when they win the championship. So, but it has to be worth it though. Like our team, it was worth being in the luxury tax. The Golden State Warriors, it's worth paying the luxury tax. And so there's a fine line there. And players, like I said, individual players talk about it, but as a team, we never came together and was talking about it.
Yeah, I don't mean like you had a group session on it, but I just want to know if it's the kind of thing that affects guys that, because to me, if there's any doubt, right, that the organization is all in, then it would seem to affect the team in some way. Like, what are we playing for here, right? Like, are we serious?
Only max players get to talk about stuff like that. only the superstar dudes get to talk about.
Well, I mean, look, LeBron could corner Sam Amick in the hallway and then say, you know what has to happen here with the Lakers, which he means trading those future picks and giving him a chance. I don't know that Jimmy's going to do something like that publicly, but I just kind of wonder if this kind of talk, seeps in a little bit with some guys. Like, okay, we talk about being serious, but are we serious? And to the same point, is we're looking ahead to the trade deadline, and now we're very close to where Dewayne Dedmon could be traded. Every contract on the Heat is tradable. Hero is more difficult, but the others as of January 15th. And I'm wondering, do these dates resonate with players? The trade deadline's coming up. Contracts are vested.
Every player is aware of the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Every player that's eligible to be traded knows about the trade deadline. Now, how it affects players is different. Mature players or players who've been in the league for a long period of time, they understand, so it probably don't affect them as much. But a young player who maybe has never gone through it before, when they hear their names in trade talks or possibilities, they might be a little more nerve-wracking. So it all depends on the player, but everybody knows about that trade deadline because
when's the first year that you started hearing name?
I didn't hear anything until my fourth year after LeBron left.
Mm-hmm.
Once that era was over, that's the first time I had heard anything regarding, possibly being traded. And like I said, it does, you do think about it because you're not just thinking about where you're going to play basketball, you're thinking about where you're going to live at, where you're possibly going to live at, if you have family, if you have kids and things like that. Some people take their family everywhere they go. So you're talking about uprooting your family and things of that nature. So yeah, it's definitely something that you're aware of and that you think about.
Alex, want to join?
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of the questions I've asked so far have just kind of painted the season in a negative light for the Heat. And something I will say, though, even though they're only 2 games above 500, they don't seem like they're as good as last season's team, right? Just from what we've seen so far. Bam Adebayo has really developed and has found the go-to shot, that short mid-range jumper. He has gotten to, I think, 16 field goal attempts a game after Pat challenged him to get to 15. He said, Bam himself said he was going to get to 18. He's found a way to become consistently up there, right? And you talk about Tyler Hero, who is the starter and has done a great job as a starter. There was, maybe some concerns about him not being able to fit with other guys on a consistent level, having to play more off ball. He's done a great job. He's taking more threes and they're benefiting from it. He's kind of maturing as a playmaker too. Now you got Victor Oladipo, comeback story of the year candidate right now, the way that he's looking, just playing phenomenal on 2 ends of the floor, even when the shot is not falling. He's getting to the rim. He looks quick and he's just looking like an all-NBA defender right now, the way that he is just ripping it from dudes on a night-to-night basis. So you have these really big positives that are going on in a season where everything is felt negative, especially from the fan base, right? And so how important do you think those things are? Is that ultimately more important to their playoff success than where they rank in offensive rating and three-point shooting right now and how it's going mid-season?
Right now, I believe that their focus is on a game-by-game, week-by-week basis. And, not looking every night where are we at in the standings. I think they're looking at a game-by-game, week-by-week standings, or looking at how they're playing as far as wins and losses. And then I believe that, once you get to All-Star break, get a chance to refresh, hopefully guys get healthy, and then make a run for whatever seeding you are, try to get higher. And I think that's where they are right now at this point. Game by game, week by week, never skipping the process, never looking too far down the line. Because, the outside noise is the outside noise. You can't really say anything about that. The fans, they obviously expect us to, as players, to win, and they want their team to win. And we, as players, we want to win as well. But we're different than the fans because we understand the day-to-day process. We're in it every day. And so we can't look too far down the line like the fans can. We have to take it game by game, week by week. And then, when we get a break, like the All-Star break, or when we come back from a long road trip, then we'll look at the standings, take a peek and see where we are, and go from there.
All right. Make sure you check out the sponsors, Prize Picks. Use the code 5. Energy Cubes, of course, check that out. Norris is telling you the best bars, so trust him on that. Water Cleanup of Florida as well, and c-armstaffing.com. I think the one thing that is keeping some hope alive here is that the league is kind of a mess this year, Norris. There's no dominant team. Milwaukee had a good run. They've slipped back. Boston had a historic offense the first month. They came back a little bit to the pack. The Nets got rolling, and now Durant's hurt. The Western Conference, the Pacific Division, had 3 title contenders: the Clippers, Phoenix, and Golden State. All those teams are 500 right now. And even the Pelicans got a run, and then Zion gets hurt. So it feels like this is as wide open as it's been, which is going to make the trade deadline kind of interesting. Do you even have a title favorite right now?
I do not have a title favorite right now. It's wide open right now, and it's hard to tell because, like you said, there's injuries. If everyone was healthy, I believe I know who I would favor, but there's so many injuries going on right now. It's a lot of parity in the league, which is good. That way, it makes you want to watch the games because you never know who's going to win. It's kind of tough when you already know who's going to win. So I think for that, it's good for fans to be able to watch because you never know who's going to win. But I don't have a favorite yet. Not right now. I don't.
All right. So if everybody was healthy, who would the favorite have been?
For me, I would be saying Milwaukee and probably Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee and Memphis would be my favorite. From what I've seen, I believe those two teams, they have shooting, they have defense, they have superstar talent, they have supporting cast, they have grit and toughness. They can play ugly and they can play out and wide open. So, and they all have size too. They can match up with any team. They can go small, they can go big. So for me, I would believe those two teams would be my favorite.
Well, we'll see if the Heat can make a move and maybe get back in the mix here. Norris, we appreciate it. All right, so Grand Rapids. So what's next after that?
Grand Rapids go what's next. Hopefully get a call up. Hopefully get a 10-day or get called up and get signed.
Yeah, I was asking you about that. So if you started to hear from teams and all, we haven't talked to you since the USA experience this summer, actually. So
yeah, it's been a while. Well, those things kind of happen like quickly. Those 10 days and things like that. So I'm just staying ready. Doing what I do, playing my role, and hopefully, team sees value in that and brings me in. That's why I stayed. That's why I stayed and played here in the G League this year, just so I can have the possibility, the chance to get called up. So, hopefully that's something that can happen.
Well, the Heat have a roster spot, but they've also got a luxury tax concern. You'd push them way over. So I don't know. Maybe if they just pay you in energy cubes,
it's worth it. It's worth it. It's good money.
All right, Norris, thanks.
It's worth it.
I know they would welcome you back. Trust me, that would be celebrated, no doubt. At this point, there's a bunch of you guys I think they'd like to welcome back. Here's the thing about you: they know you'd play every game. There's no question about that. Like you didn't miss a whole bunch of games when you were here in Miami. Like we know
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely, always ready to play.
Availability is a talent. All right, thanks, Norris. We appreciate it. Thanks to Alex. We'll be back with post-game coverage of Milwaukee and the Heat on the YouTube channel and on the post and on the podcast channels as well. Have a good one.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Five on the Floor on the Five Regional Sports Network.
This year is your year, even if you also said that in 2022. And however you want to make a splash, Mother Nature can help you every step of the way with Wool Runner Mizzles from Allbirds. Wool Runner Mizzles are shoes made from premium supernatural weather-repellent materials, so you can jump into this year with both feet, rain or shine. The high-top runners are made from temperature-regulating, moisture-wicking merino wool, treated with durable puddle guard technology to keep you dry and comfy. And you can take confident strides with supernatural rubber treads that grip for all condition traction and sugarcane-based sweet foam midsoles that put a little bounce in each step. Allbirds is constantly innovating to increase the performance and longevity of their earth-friendly materials. So even on your toughest outings, you'll wear out before your shoes do. This year, make a splash without worrying about getting your feet wet with Wool Runner Mizzles from Allbirds. Discover your perfect pair at allbirds.com today. That's ALLBIRDS.com.